people. I'll just get the interface up on my screen as usual. But what was I going to say? Blah, 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 blah. Trying to think what I was actually going to say now. I won't be doing too long a stream today, and like I said, I'm a bit earlier today. Well, like I said, I like doing them at different times of day every now and then because means people in different time zones can see them. But we've had a bit of problem with our internet line today. First time there's ever been any issue since we switched to the new ISP. So I want to, do a stream while the internet's currently working because, again, don't know if there will be issues, but because the internet went down for a bit today. A bit like we had the power cut the other day. As it's working at the moment, we'll keep it like this. So do it now. So yeah, like I said, I'll be doing this stream. Then I'll like I said, doing this one a bit earlier than usual, but just because obviously that by doing one at this time, I know it's working. So yeah, there we go. So I got the French F1 helmet on. There's a video coming out on this in a few days. Quite a nice steel pot helmet. I've sort of talked about it a bit before, but one of those weird ones where it was a steel pot helmet from the very late 70s. And then, didn't last that long in French service. Not because it was a bad helmet, but because it wasn't very long until nations started putting like Kevlar helmets into production. So this was kind of like, if they'd have probably known in hindsight, they wouldn't have designed this. They'd have just kept sticking around with their other helmet for another 10 plus years. And then they'd have gone, it's a bit like the Mark 7 with Britain, that we had a perfectly good helmet with it, but it came out at just the wrong time when they were going to start replacing all the helmets anyway. So it was more like a stopgap helmet, I guess, thing. But yeah, in terms of a steel helmet, it's meant to be pretty good. It's about 1.2 millimeters of quite good quality steel, whereas a lot of World War II helmets are slightly less than 1.2 millimeters, and the steel quality can vary depending on the nation and how stretched they were for like various steels and that at the time. So yeah, hopefully we get some people on. I think, hasn't the new series of Fallout come out, the TV show? So if so, I might have a look at that a bit later. Yeah, season 2. So is all of season 2 out with the new series of Fallout, or is it just episode 1? Let's have a look. No, it's just series 2, episode 1 so far, but I might watch that after the stream. I wasn't a massive fan of the first series, but I'll watch it if it's out. There's not much else for me to watch on things. Well, there's lots to watch, but not much I'm interested in, if that makes sense. So yeah, but yeah, hopefully we get some people commenting in a minute. As I said, it's a bit of a strange time for a stream for me today, but like I said, because we've had internet issues today. If I do a stream now, the internet's currently working. If I try and do a stream later, I don't know if the internet's still going to be up or if it's going to have crashed or whatever. So yeah, we'll see if people come on. If nobody comes on, then we'll just end the stream. But yeah, anything else? Let me just have a quick look in the news and that and see if there's anything particularly interesting. Duke of Marlborough, charge of international, intentional strangulation. Oh, so that's interesting because he lives just down the road from me, the Duke of Marlborough. The Duke of Marlborough has been charged with intentional strangulation. The 70-year-old is accused of attacking the same person in Woodstock, Oxfordshire 3 times over an 18-month period. Charles James Spencer Churchill, formerly known as Jamie Blandford, is a relative of Sir Winston Churchill and Diana, Princess of Wales. He is due to appear at perform at Oxford's magistrate on Thursday. So the person he strangled 3 times on separate dates, do you reckon this is a bit of a kinky strangulation? It seems weird it'd be the same person he strangled on 3 different dates. So, I'm going to send this to somebody I know because they might find this quite funny. French F1 helmet, also known as the M1978. This is a damaged one. You can see there's a dent in the top, and it's missing its straps, but the actual line is all in it. I bought this one as a cheap helmet to do ballistic tests on because it was the cheapest, like, damaged helmet I could find on eBay, and then I ended up quite liking it. So this is one, I've got a video coming out on it, but it's one that the French originally had in after World War II, a rip-off of the American M1 helmet, as in they didn't pay America for a license of the M1, but they made a helmet that was literally an M1 copy. You know, like most of the parts are interchangeable with an actual M1. And then, yeah, 20 odd years later, they decided they were going to replace it with this thing, which is, again, it's apparently a bit better. But the thing I do like, though, about my French helmet, wherever that is the French helmet, the other one, the M51, I've got, like, the custom, you know, like, liner for it, because they started off with the cheapo plastic liners, like the M1. But later on, the French did quite a comfy, like, rubber, like a rubber and foam liner for it. So where I've got the rubber and foam liner and I ended up putting that in it, it's actually a really comfortable helmet. But again, I think that's just a weird case of, you know, like, for whatever reason they decided to do. Because I think if I'm trying to remember if it was an actual tank crewman's helmet, that rubber thing I've got in there, or if it was like one of those weird ones where it was designed that you could take the thing out of the helmet and then it was like a bump helmet, you know, like a nice rubber sort of bump helmet for crews and vehicles and things like that. And then obviously you could put it in the helmet and use it as a liner. So sorry, is that Joseph? Sorry, hard to read your name on this. I'll get it up on the big screen. Yeah, it's basic. Joseph. He says, "This is crazy. Coming across you in YouTube Shorts, you inspired me to buy gas masks a very long time ago. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well." Yeah. No, not Russian helmet at all. It's French. The closest I can kind of see how you'd think it looks a bit like an SSH-40 or whatever. But it's a French M1978, also known as the F1. And basically it's like I'm saying, it's where France decided to replace their rip-offs of the US M1 helmet in the late 70s. They were meant to make around 1 million of these. Apparently they made like 200 to 300,000, and then it got to the period where obviously everybody was adopting Kevlar helmets, so France stopped production of it to move on to Kevlar helmets. Yeah, Le France. Yeah, all right, thanks. Although I was saying to a couple of other people, the only problem I've had today is the internet went down for a bit earlier, which is the first time it's done it on the current ISP. So they've been really good compared to BT that we used to be on. But yeah, there's been a load of problems in my area with my ISP today. So I thought I'd do a stream now because the internet's working. Whereas I don't know if I leave it longer, you know, if it will go down again. But yeah, so like I said, annoyingly, this one's got a bit of a dent in the top. Don't know how much that would affect the protective quality. There's quite a comfy liner in this. Like I said, it's missing its strap. It's got one of those adjustable bands around the outside to tighten it. It's got like a nice foam suspension bit. As you can see, that's quite thick foam. Looks a bit like the cradle for your head. And it would have been like a 3-point harness for the strap system in there. If I had the helmet liner in there, you know, at the back and the sides for the chin strap liner, a bit like, I suppose, a British Mark 6 helmet. Dream helmets. I'm trying to think because, like I said, I've had a German M40 before, and I've got a replica M40 or M38, whichever one it is. And like I said, as much as they're cool helmets, they're not my favourite. I suppose one of the weird helmets I'd like is the like Saddam's Fedayeen or whatever they were called. Fedayeen or whatever they were called helmets, you know, like the Darth Vader-y looking things, which apparently were pretty crap. But if this is, as long as there's not any holes in the side diaphragm, it will work absolutely fine. Just do an airtight test of the mask, but the side diaphragm is there, so you can literally clip on like radios to the side of the mask. But no, I don't have any actual real German World War II helmets. Somewhere I have got a replica M40 or M38, whichever one it is, but I don't have a real. Like I said, at one point I did, but I sold it because of how much money you could get for a German World War II helmets. It was a rusty one, and you know, somebody paid me, I think it was nearly 100 quid for a rusty shell of you know, an M40 or whatever it was. So for me, I'd rather just have the money than a rusty helmet that I can't really wear. Have you tried putting it in a washing machine? I assume when you say grenade vest, do you mean just like one that is for use for storing grenades, or do you mean a flak jacket? Because if it's literally a thing like that, just wash it at low temperature with washing, like, you know, washing detergent or whatever, or put in a bucket with washing detergent and give it a stir. If it's a flak jacket, you obviously have to take all the liner out to not damage it. Which one's a BCD? Probably not. I don't recognize the name. Let me just Google it. If you mean British civilian duty from World War II, I've got one somewhere. British civilian duty respirator. I've got quite a few British World War II masks if you look at my channel. Again, none of them are handy in this room to get out for a stream. If you've tried washing it and it still smells bad, I have no clue, because again, if you wash stuff that would normally get rid of odors from clothing, then I'd have no idea why it still smells, other than it's made of a material that's like falling apart. Yeah, I like the M18. But yeah, the M18 is pretty good. I've also got the civil defense version of the M18, which is like a cheaper liner in it, and obviously it's made of aluminium, not steel, because it was designed just to protect people, I think, from falling debris. Never actually really listened to Slipknot. I know obviously Slipknot's famous for their gas masks and that, but I doubt somebody's died in it. It's probably just old surplus that's been stored in probably like damp, horrible conditions. Oh, that would be the M1 helmet, Josh, if it was a World War II American helmet. That was the M1. They had the Brodie helmet, as in like the British Mark I, Mark II helmet, prior to really entering the war. And then when they went into the war in proper numbers, they had the US M1 helmet, which is the helmet America had till pretty much the 80s, you know, like their steel pot helmet. You sure it's blood stains and not rust straps, though? Sorry, rust stains, because on lots of surplus, I've got stuff that's got like rust stains on it, but it's not blood stains. But if it is blood stains, that's a bit macabre. But yeah, you can get quite a lot of surplus where, like, because it's, you know, like had metal joints and stuff on that, when they rust, they leave like a red kind of brown sort of coloration on things. But so yeah, like I said, streaming at this time today for a bit because the internet's currently working. Time in the UK, it's just on 4 p.m. So yeah, 4 p.m. UK time at the moment. But like I said, at the moment, like I said, my internet was screwing up earlier, so I'm doing a stream now just in case it starts going wrong again. It depends. The problem with German, like when you say scuttles, if you mean German like M38, M40 helmets and all that Wessex, is the problem with those is in theory they are much better helmets. The problem is with German World War II helmets is as the war went on, the steel quality got worse and worse. So early war German helmets are really good. The problem with late war ones is the steel quality is so crap on a lot of them that even if it gives you good head coverage, you know, this helmet's going to shatter and splinter really easily when stuff hits it that it should in theory stop because they, you know, went to really shit quality steel. I think Japanese helmets had that problem later in the war as well, where they started off as quite good quality steel, and then, you know, as Japan got more and more desperate for decent quality steel, they went to like worse and worse materials. That's cool. I don't know what hose they're sending you then, but yeah, assuming they send you as what they've advertised, that would be good. Because in theory, there's nothing stopping people, like I've said before, getting something that's 40mm GOST at one end of a hose and then putting a 40mm NATO female thread at the bottom of a hose and, you know, taping it on, making a hose that would let you adapt it. Yeah, again, I think most cheek filter masks look cool, but yeah, I'm not a fan of them in terms of they're not good for still illegal. Well, again, they used to be legal and then they were made illegal. I did a video on it the other day if you have a look. The Olympic ones that they're called the starting pistols, they're still legal. They never made those illegal for whatever reason, but the single action army, they made illegal. Bruni is Italian manufacturer of blank firing guns. Again, we can't talk too much about guns on one of these live streams because of YouTube's policies now. But yeah, with blank firers in the UK, nearly all the Bruni guns used to be completely legal. Then, you know, the dickheads in charge decided at one point they were no longer legal. So it's one of those things, if you've got them, you have to get rid of them. You know, I'm not going to suggest to people how they get rid of them. The legal way that they encourage you to do is to hand them into a police station in an amnesty. But like when I said, when the previous blank firing ban went on, the amnesty wasn't very well done at all, as in most police stations wouldn't accept them, and some of the ones that did accept them didn't really know what they were meant to be doing with them. I'm going to get rid of your comment there, Mafia Crew. Again, don't say stuff like that on here. Just because, again, if you post stuff like that online, it can be used as evidence against you. So I'm going to remove that comment in good faith, but don't make more comments like that. Again, I'm not going to be grassing people up, but it's really stupid to put comments like that on YouTube saying I'm going to be breaking a law, because, you know, even if you were just joking about it, doesn't stop the government fucking you over if you've literally written down you're doing something illegal. And Ammo Alchemist, YouTube can give you a strike for that, because annoyingly, like I said before, YouTube gets really funny about live streams now with guns. So yeah, that's what, like I said, none of mine are in frame, won't get any out to show people, even airsoft ones or whatever, on live stream anymore, because I've had problems with it. And oh shit, oh, that's not right. Right, right, again, there you go. You're on timeout for now. If you do it again, you're blocked. Because like I said, don't do it. And this is me just saying I don't want people fucking going on about illegal stuff on my own streams. So yeah, there you go. You're timed out for this stream. If you come back on another one, behave. Because like I was saying, it's one of those things where having a VPN doesn't protect you from shit if you're in a country and, you know, you're like, oh, I have a VPN. Yeah, the VPN won't stop you getting raided by the fucking pigs. Oh, sorry, that was a bit impolite for the police, but you know what I mean. Like I said, a VPN is good if you're in the country and you just want to get around, you know, like websites being restricted and that. A VPN is not going to protect you from saying, oh, I've done a criminal act and now I've got a VPN, so I can't be arrested. They're not going to go, oh, you used a VPN to say, to admit to doing something illegal, therefore we're not going to charge you. Eventually, though, I think they're doing a thing where you can't actually do a live stream until you've had a certain thing, like, you know, where you've been live for long enough, like you've had your channel for long enough. So eventually you just won't be able to do anything because of that. Ward off screen, we were just talking about blank firers and stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, sadly, YouTube isn't, again, we won't talk too much about guns. Like I said, once I've done this, we won't talk about guns anymore on the stream just because of YouTube's policies. But yeah, unfortunately, YouTube is not gun friendly at all now, not on live streams at all. You can't have guns with mags bigger than a certain thing, apparently, in regular videos or shorts. Can't have automatics in videos and shorts anymore. So yeah, it's one of those things where really another platform needs to come along and be more friendly towards it. But like I said, that'll be all I'll say on it now for today's stream, because like I said, I don't want to spend too much of the stream talking about stuff that YouTube might get anal about. So not really. When you say space law, do you mean like historical space missions, or do you mean like what, like fictional stuff, or like the history of space? All right, that was a weird comment from that guy. Goodbye. Kindly fuck off and never come back. People in the UK get arrested over fucking tweets. So just for anybody that's dumb enough in the UK to think, oh, you post something online, they're not going to use it against you. They will. Because like I said, we live in basically a police state. So I'm going to have a look at this person's profile now. I've blocked them because you can do that now. Go to channel. Let's see what kind of content they make. Oh, they don't have any content, and the person's profile picture looks kind of like it's AI. So yeah, wasting our time. But yeah, no, the history of space, I find a lot of the capsule stuff interesting. Do you find the stuff interesting about the potentially dead cosmonauts in space? Because that's kind of like one of those interestingly, like, not urban legends, but you know what I mean, like where supposedly before Gagarin there might have been cosmonauts that died in space that the Soviets then covered up. What happened to the UK? We've just had loads of shit governments in a row, And it doesn't matter now what governments promised to do prior to being elected. Lots of them could stand on a ticket to say that they're going to make laws, less restrictive than that. And then as soon as, they come in, they basically do the opposite of what they say. Lost cosmonauts, exactly. Again, like I said, I didn't say I think it's real. I just said it's interesting. But yeah, so it's one of those things, like I said, that annoyingly in the UK, for like last 20, 30 years, nearly every political party that's come in have promised various things. And, as soon as they come into power, they basically do the opposite. So it's not like you can even say to the people, oh, you should have voted for a better political party or whatever. Because again, it's, as a voter, what are you meant to do? If, you vote with the party that seems like they're the most reasonable at the time of an election, and then they break all their electoral pledges. I really wish in most democracies, governments could be held legally accountable if they break their electoral pledges, like prison time or fines for everything they fucking lie about. Because the problem is with so many like democracies now is if you run for government, you can basically say whatever you want to get votes, and then as soon as you get in, do whatever the hell you want. Yeah, well, like the space trash stuff, ward off stream. I mean, there's a lot more than two parties in the UK, but the problem is in the UK we have first past the post system, and that means it's very difficult for people because it's not proportional. It means it's very difficult for political parties to get in. But again, we've got the weird thing in the UK now where the centre has basically died, and the next election is going to be far left. I wouldn't say reform's far right, but it's like essentially it's far left and further right. The middle's gone now. It's going to either be basically communists or reform. Is the Greens being communists now? Because the Greens that used to be an environmental party are now like the Islamist party, with like promising people socialist stuff that they're never going to actually be able to afford if they get into power. I don't know who you're talking to there, Joshua, but yeah. But yeah, like you said, Joshua, though, a VPN is not going to stop any serious police force. No, not expecting hail, although it looks a bit like I've been hit by hail, doesn't it, on the top of this one? No, I just wore this one because this was the helmet I said I'd have the other. It's not me that the Fort Police, well, they might come after me, but like I was saying, it was somebody else in the stream earlier. I had to time out because they kept saying about doing illegal stuff and then basically going, oh, I've got a VPN, so I can't get arrested. It's like, it doesn't work like that. Especially because a lot of VPNs the government have backdoors to anyway. Like, again, like I said, VPNs are good if you want to just look at websites that your government might restrict in your country, or like looking at, say, like for me, I use a VPN to go on Sora and generate like videos on Sora because you have to be in the US to use Sora, but you can just use a VPN set to America and it thinks you're in the US. But yeah, like I said, VPNs will do nothing to protect you if you're actually doing illegal activity, especially though there might be a couple, because I think there's a couple that have been taken to court and not like ratted their users out. But there's a lot of VPNs that probably keep logs of what you've done, and then potentially they'll just sell them to the highest bidder anyway. Again, we've got another weirdo on. I guess this YouTube stream's either gone out to somebody that's coming back with several accounts, or it's just gone on to somewhere on a page where people normally don't, come on my streams, and then they're again, don't know that one MB Plov, so I can't recommend it or not recommend it. I just use a VPN that's built into my antivirus, but like I'm saying, it's one of those things where what you call it, I wouldn't like ever use mine to do anything illegal with it. Like I said, my VPN I mostly just use to watch stuff that's like you can't view in the UK, or if where the government does the shit of because of the Online Safety Act you can't look at this website. That's good, but like I said, I personally can't recommend or not recommend any because I've heard, like I said, I've heard stories where loads of them supposedly are good up until the point they're not. Again, I'm just gonna have to keep tell you what I'll do. There's an easy way I can get around people that just keep coming back with fucking new accounts. The easiest thing for me to do is again, they've changed the fucking interface like they always like doing, which is really annoying because it means when you're used to something that's somewhere, it's not in the same place. So I just put it so you have to be a subscriber to come onto the stream because it stops people just literally coming back on. But yeah, I'm feeling absolutely fine for blocking that person. Well, not blocking, timing them out now if they're just constantly coming back with new accounts to go, oh, did you get rid of me? I was just doing illegal stuff. There we go. You have to be a subscriber for 20 minutes to comment on the stream. And if everybody goes off, then they're off. But again, if somebody already has multiple accounts to come back with, it means that they're probably a shit stirrer anyway. If you're a foreigner coming to the UK, I wouldn't worry too much. Like I said, most of the people that get in issues in the UK are people that live over here, and then they get into a lot of the culture war shit or whatever. But basically, if you're in the UK, never admit to anything online of doing anything illegal. Just because, like I said, you're going to end up in a situation then where, but like I said, if you're just here on holiday, you're not going to be here really long enough for somebody to find something you've said online offensive and then report you. The problem is YouTube constantly just changes the interfaces. I like the one from 2005 or whenever it was, John, when it was very ugly, like white and square blocky looking, but everything was in a sensible place. But yeah, like most things, they change the interface like every few weeks to few months, and sometimes they improve it, sometimes it gets worse. But yeah, like I was saying, saying that the algorithm, though, as much as lots of channels have complained about it, the most recent change has got me more views than less views. So for my channel, it's actually worked out well. But some of the channels I've seen whinging about it are the really big channels that essentially keep making the same video over and over and over, at which point you think then really make some better content. Yeah, again, phone and PC have a bit of a different interface. Although I find sometimes with the algorithm, though, you're saying that, I can have a few days in a row where it's really good, and all my stream, all the videos being recommended to me as stuff I'd be interested in, like history things and all that sort of stuff. And then for like one day, it might be all e-sleb shit, and then it goes back to being good again. No, I don't remember that at all. MB Plug probably didn't use it. The thing I do remember is the video responses, where you could do a video underneath that showed up where somebody's description was, that was a response to their video. So there was that, which was pretty good. And again, that's one of those features I wish they never got rid of. Because again, it was good if you were so I do it a lot of like Weapon Collector and people like that. They do a video about a subject, and then they'd get people that are subscribed to them to do their own take on the video sort of thing. And then you could put them as video responses. So you could watch the original video and then you could click through like the fan responses to that video, if you like. But again, that was a feature they got rid of. You can't even see the amount of dislikes now, can you, on videos? I think there's a plugin that lets you see it. But again, it's one of those weird things that used to be you could rate a video between 1 and 5 stars. Then you could either like or dislike it. Then they hid the dislikes. Because again, like lots of channels, I had the weird thing where you'd get people subscribe to you to just dislike your videos. Like, I don't think they ever watched them. But, within a day of a video going up, I'd always get a couple of dislikes, which I think always came from the same people. Because sometimes the video could have like 10 views. And I'd have 3 likes, 2 dislikes. Well, it was like somebody was subscribed just to dislike. Yeah, I think they should have ways of categorizing them better. Because like I said, I have that annoying thing where, like I said, sometimes it's really good at showing me. Again, I've been unsubscribed from a lot of channels though recently, and I've seen other channels complaining about that, where I'm subscribed and I've clicked the bell, haven't seen anything from a channel in a while, and then when I next see one of their videos and I check, it's unsubscribed me. All right, Rob? But yeah, like I said, the problem is YouTube is kind of like two different things for creating content and watching content. But yeah. Right, I won't be on too much longer today. Just like I said, I wasn't planning on doing a really long stream today. I've already done a video earlier that I've got scheduled. It was on the SHUM 2012 because somebody asked me, could I do some more videos on like Russian and Soviet style masks? So I've done one on the SHUM 2012 for them. For under 300 USD, you can get quite a lot of things. I'd go for one of the good Radia codes forging for that price. So let's go to Radia Code's website. So for, like, for example, the Radia code 103 is just under £200. So I assume this is under $300. And the Radia code is really good. That's the better Radia code than the one I've got, or the two I've got. But so that's a spectrometer. So it can tell you what kind of gamma rays you're being exposed to, like what they're coming from. It's got quite a good app and everything like that with it as well. So you can use it as either what do you call it? You know, an actual, like, it's not Geiger counter, but it's very close to it. You can use it as either you know, a thing to actually measure what you're being exposed to and what the current radiation levels are. Or you can use it as well with an app where, you know, you can look at a map, you can set it to record where you've been and then what the radiation levels have been where you've been. That's all right. Like I said, Radia codes are really good. Like I said, they're not technically Geiger counters, but the brand new price from is very good. And like saying, it's one of my most used ones out of all my meters because of the fact it's very sensitive. And yeah, although it technically only picks up X-rays and gamma rays, being a gamma spectrometer, I found a lot of beta radiation sources do also set it off. So yeah. The SHUM 2012 is this thing. It's where the Russians did kind of like a modernized GP5M style mask. So it was just a video of me talking about this mask. And it's, what I was basically covering in the video is it's not really any better than the older GP5Ms. You know, as much as people think, oh, it's more modern and everything. Yeah, it's not really any better in any way. The voice diaphragm might be a bit better, but the valve assembly is cheaper than the older Soviet masks. Yeah, I like the look of it, but yeah, it's just one of those masks where if you think, oh, it's modern, so it must be better than the older ones, not really. And what's sad with this is apparently the older models of it were higher quality, and it's one of those things where, like, with each generation of it, they cheapen the parts because of the fact that, I guess, you know, then they make a bigger profit margin for each mask they sell. But yeah, so I think it's a cool looking mask, and like I said, it's the same sort of look as all the old Soviet masks, and it works fine with helmets because helmet masks, as they're known, even though they're not called helmet masks because you know, wearing them for helmet, I think they're called helmet masks because they go over your head a bit like a helmet. They tend to work fine with helmets because there's not straps that get in the way of the actual helmet liner. No, the yellow thing is an adapter. It's a really cheap valve cover. So basically, unlike the decent quality metal ones on the older Soviet masks, it's to stop the valve opening, and this has less valves in it than the older masks, so it's more likely that you'll get a gas leak through the mask. Like I said, the GP5M is probably better than this thing. The PMK2 GP5M is better quality, really, than this. But like I said, sadly, the older versions of this actually had a, you know, had the older style valve assembly of the dual valves, you know, to make a better airtight seal. But sadly, what they ended up doing with these was, you know, each generation of them, they cheapened and cheapened and cheapened the exhale valve parts. Oh, and again, this is the funny thing, it's the modern GP5 filter. Again, exact same metal housing as the old ones, but actually, you know, the modern ones, which don't have asbestos in, you can actually see that if you look at it from the right angle. You can see it's like a modern HEPA filter in it. But, yeah. Anyway, I'll be off in a minute. The analog yellow Geiger counter in the carbon 14 videos. I don't think I had an analog Geiger counter in that video. What, the one I uploaded today? There's not an analog counter in that. If you do you mean the GMC 800? That's not analog. That's digital. Analog means it's got a needle, you know, like an old vacuum tube style one. But yeah. So, like I was saying, that's the needle one. I don't think there was a needle one in that video. What day was the video? Yeah, cheers, or ORS Stalker. Right, so which day was the video from? Because otherwise, just saying carbon 14 isn't going to help much. Tell me what day the video went live before I go off, and I am going off in a few minutes, so you have to be quick about it. So which day did the video go live? And then I can go and have a quick look for you. But in the one I did today with a carbon 14, it wasn't one with a needle in. The only yellow Geiger counter I can think of that I've got with an analog style one is like the CDV 700, CDV 715 style things. Is that what you're on about? But again, don't know until you reply. $16 ago. So it was the carbon 14 one from this morning. There isn't an analog one in there. Except I've got the video right here. There is a, whatchamacallit in it. There's a radio code. There's a GMC 800, this thing, which isn't analog. That's a digital Geiger counter. And there's the Russian, this one. There isn't one with a needle in that video. So I don't know what you're on about, because that literally went live. It was towards the end. But there isn't. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I get you now. No, that is the right. So that is one somebody's painted, not me. Yeah, sorry, yeah. It was just that isn't a Geiger counter. It's an ionization chamber. It's a British MD3, which is an updated Mark II Radiac. I'll find you one for sale because I think there's still quite a few on eBay. But yeah, they're quite cool. They're ionization chambers. They're a bit like a US CDV 715, but they're open air ones. So you know they work by basically it's got an ion chamber in there that you know you can expose to the air. This one's 50 quid at the moment. They used to be a lot cheaper than this. But I'll link you to this one. I don't know if this one is working or not. Let me just see if I can shorten the URL down. There you go. So MD is in Mike Delta. So it's one of these, like, so it's one that somebody had painted yellow. They weren't ever originally yellow. They're updated Mark II Radiacs. I've done videos on it. Oh, there are some others on eBay coming up for various prices. You know, I guess depending on if they're working or spares and repairs. But basically it does, the old one used to be 0 to 300 Rontgen. It's centigrades on this one, which is like an updated measurement. How they work is it's an open air ionization chamber inside the meter. So again, you're not going to set it off with things that aren't low radioactivity. It's for picking up X-rays and gamma rays and strong beta sources. You can actually get a bit of AM241 if you open the calibration port and set them off. But yeah, they're basically a bit like a CDV 715 or a CDV 720 where they're for, you know, high radiation levels only. What do you mean form of currency? I said pounds or quid or whatever. Currency? But as in pound sterling, as in this, the currency we have in the UK. Quid is a slang name, like buck is for dollar. Quid, you know, quid is a slang name for pounds. So if I say 30 quid, it means 30 pounds. But quid is a name nearly everybody uses over here for pounds. So it's, yeah, like so it's like saying buck or, you know, another word in the US you might have as a stand-in for dollars. It's not really either, Rob. It definitely feels different than a GP5M like shim kind of rubber. but I wouldn't say it's really PMK rubber either. I've got an M40, a US M40 somewhere, not in this room though, so I can't get it out handily right now, but I do have a US M40 somewhere. Right, anyway, have a good day, everybody. I'm going to be going off now as well, because like I said, I've been on for 40 odd minutes. The internet has at least held up for, cool, yeah. Because it was like the M40 and the MCU2P, wasn't it? The ones that replaced the M17. And there's also the M45, that weird kind of rare one that's quite cool looking. But yeah, so I'll be off now. The internet has at least held up when I've done the stream, because like I said earlier on today, our internet was crashing out. Like I said, and the other day we had all the electricity and that crashing out. So I think something's gone wrong in my local area with power lines or something like that. But yeah, have a good evening, everybody. And if I get a chance to stream tomorrow, I'll stream tomorrow. So see you then. Right, have a good day. And I have to end this on my